Justin Van Heerden has entered the chat. Geez, it is getting spicier and spicier. Justin Van Heerden, the former Eternal MMA featherweight champion, that's an important detail, who's recently jumped over to Hex and was supposed to challenge for the Hex featherweight title with Abdalla Biyada on June 14th in Melbourne. As of a couple of weeks ago, that got kind of thrown into disarray because Abdalla Biyada lost a Muay Thai fight where he suffered a concussion and he wouldn't be medically cleared to fight. So he's out. Justin Van Heerden left without an opponent. He then... there was some back-end stuff where potentially his teammate Jarrett Wilbraham was taking on Sem Kakembo. There was some movement that Sem Kakembo might slide in and take that fight with Justin. Anyway, what actually ends up getting announced as of yesterday, what are we, May 29th, so May 28th gets announced George Mangos taking on Justin Van Heerden. George Mangos from Lions Den, originally in the Grand Prix for Eternal MMA to find the new featherweight champion that Justin Van Heerden created when he vacated the belt to come on over. Very interesting. George has then been announced to take on Justin Van Heerden. Now, we find out, we get Justin's thoughts on the Jarrett Wilbraham, Sem Kakembo, what's going on there, what might happen. We even get his thoughts on Abdalla Biyada having to be removed from the bout. But apparently, we might not even get George Mangos versus Justin Van Heerden. It's such a wild time to be an Australian MMA fan. We will get to the bottom of it eventually. It will sort itself out. There is one thing I can guarantee, that whether it's Eternal or Hex, fights will happen and they will be amazing. It feels like this has been the best year for fight cards ever regionally. And boy, is it just a jumble getting there with people jumping ship and contracts and blah, 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 blah. There's so much going on. But without further ado, because it's a very long chat, but we cover all this stuff. It's one of my favorite people to talk to because he does not hold back. Ladies and gentlemen, Justin Van Heerden. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. The man that's taking on George Mangos, June 14th, Melbourne Pavilion for the Hex featherweight title. Mr. Justin Van Heerden, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Good to be back. It's been a minute.
Geez, there's been a bit of shit going on, isn't there?
Yeah, so, been a while, couple of weeks. I've obviously, just stayed locked in and focused on just training and just being, sort of focused on that and being a sort of body for everyone else. So I haven't really sort of responded to too much or said anything too much about anything that's happened. So it's new for me.
No, I know. It's like a mature, reserved Justin Van Heerden. I like it. Now, talk about, Abdalla, you were scheduled to take on Abdalla Biyada. We'll start there. He takes a May 18th Muay Thai fight, which we were all perplexed with. He unfortunately has the worst case scenario, gets knocked out. Talk us through your thoughts first when you know he gets knocked out a month out from your title fight. What's your first thoughts?
So, obviously, seeing that he was going to go ahead, because I was waiting to see what was going to happen with that fight, to see if he was going to go ahead with it. And I was kind of like, oh, maybe they'll pull that now, because maybe they booked it because they weren't sure if if the fight was definitely going to happen. Maybe they thought, oh, well, let's just see. We'll keep that fight scheduled in case Justin has some niggles or some injuries or something. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know, like, why. But then when the fight got announced and was, locked in, I thought for sure that they were going to scrap that. So seeing it go ahead, I was obviously very surprised. And then, like you sort of said, it was the worst case sort of result, the worst case sort of outcome. Like, he gets knocked out. For sure is pulled out of our fight. And then all the questions start popping up, because initially May was going to be completely too soon for him, regardless, since the fight with Harry and then also with Ramadan and stuff like that. So to my knowledge, June was a preferred sort of timeline for them anyway. But yeah, so there's obviously a lot of factors that go into the decision to move forward with that Muay Thai fight. First off, so straight off the bat, I want to make it clear that obviously Abdalla's partly to blame for going ahead with this fight, but the two bigger sort of parties to blame for this going ahead and this happening Number one is Hex, because you should stop someone from competing 3 weeks before the biggest featherweight fight since Volko Malaki, potentially. Massive fight. You're the promotion running it. You should put the brakes on that and go, no, you can't have a Muay Thai fight 3 weeks before you're meant to fight for the belt. But the biggest people to blame in this whole outcome is fucking his coaches and his team around him, like Steve Kennedy, all those people. Like, you're not new to the sport, you're not new to the game. Like, you should know better. You have like such a big fight with such high stakes scheduled, and then you allow something like that to happen. Just seems silly from my part. And then also, he missed weight for that Muay Thai fight, so it's like there's like all these factors. Like, was the guy, was he even training? How's he going since the fight with Harry? Like, it just seems like there was just some bad decision making going on there. And that's why, like, obviously, when this sort of broke that he got, had the fight, went ahead, got knocked out, a bunch of people were kind of, hitting me up, going like, asking me what I think about it. Am I going to say something about it? And unless him and his team came out and said something and was like, continue to say something or go down some route where they wanted to talk and say something, then yeah, I would obviously respond and say my stuff. But I was never just going to come out and slate the poor dude after he just faced, two pretty rough knockouts, and he's obviously in a pretty bad spot, both physically and mentally, from what I've been told. But yeah, so it just seems like bad decision making from the people that should be guiding him and making sure that he has the best sort of setup moving forward. Because I've said this countless times before. Like, even though we've gone back and forth and there's been this sort of stuff, like, he's a nice guy, man. He's actually a really nice dude, and he's obviously very talented and has the potential to have a very bright future in combat sports. But it just seems like, yeah, he's just got to reevaluate some stuff around him and kind of figure that out. And then obviously that brings us to the last couple of weeks to where we are now and trying to figure out what's going on. And even now, it's like things are still just crazy and up in the air.
Well, I mean, before we get on to that next chapter, I know, like you said, coaching potentially should have stopped that opportunity, especially, you only get so many high profile opportunities where you're one win away from the very next level. I understand why Abdalla wanted to get in there. If he gets in there, starts as a guy in a minute, you go, great, he's got his confidence back. You know what I mean? Like, he just lost to sort of Harry Webb. Now he's feeling it. He's now back in there. You're coming off a victory as well. Like, I can understand why they thought that process. Steve Kennedy is also from the old school, where that's what you did, and it was good for your confidence, and almost anything outside of Muay Thai didn't affect your MMA career. I understand both sides. I think it was more risky than it was reward, in that sense. But yeah, it's a sad situation. I will ask you this: do you have a message for him? Have you made contact with Abdalla, and if not, do you have a message for him now?
Nah, I was gonna message him, just because I saw some of the stuff that people were saying, and like, regardless of anything, man, I don't think it's cool, especially if someone sustained like a pretty bad concussion, which I can imagine he probably did in both those fights. It's pretty rough, man, to then come out and start sledging a dude. Like, it's fine for, I can imagine, like, I can kind of sort of stomach it a bit if the other fighters are saying stuff, or people involved in the sport are like, well, what is going on? This is stupid. This shouldn't have happened. Blah blah blah. But just seeing like a bunch of people who, number one, never trained, and number two, never fought, come out and start slating this dude and kick him while he's down. It's like, man, the dude, like, he got the worst possible outcome. Like, leave it be a little bit. Like I said, unless he came out on in a public platform and, I don't know, continue to like, try and say stuff, or was talking or something like that, then you're opening the door for yourself to get like shit on, and that's on you. But no, he's obviously not done that. So that's kind of why I was like, I was never gonna, address anything like that. And then I was thinking about messaging him and just sending him sort of a message, because, just to be like, hey man, like, because I heard that from people that are sort of connected to him and around him, that he was, going through it and thinking about potentially just like fully hanging it up and not fighting again. And I was like, fuck, man, I don't want to, like, you don't want to see that happen. Like I said, the dude's super talented. He's got a potential to have a really bright future in the sport. So you don't want to see anyone kind of be considering doing something like that so young in their career and so, so like early on. But I guess if I have to say anything to him, I would just say, man, take that time, recover, rest, reset, maybe reevaluate some things in and around your sort of inner circle, and make a decision if where you're at is the right place for you. And if it is, then, reset, refocus, double down and get back to it. And if you need to make some changes, make some changes, and then, just get back to it. But definitely do not feel like you need to rush back to fighting and putting yourself in a position where you could potentially get more compromised or anything like that. Like if I was him, I'm kicking back for the remainder of the year, potentially the first couple of months of next year, and then I'm coming back with a refocused, rejuvenated vengeance to kind of, put some of these dudes to sleep and get back to what I was doing.
And from what I do know that he's probably taking the rest of the year off at least. But he is definitely wanting to come back, and that's a good way to do it. Kind of go quiet, hide away for a couple months, work on yourself, and then come back. He's young. He's only 28. There's a bright future in the sport, like you said. Mate, that then takes us to how much were you freaking out? Obviously, like a massive fight for you has fallen through. How long did it take, and what was the communication until you got this next fight?
So yeah, this whole process has been a bit weird. Like I wasn't freaking out at the fact that like, oh fuck, that means I'm not fighting, blah blah blah. And also I just want to like straight off the bat just say like I couldn't give a fuck about the Hex title. I've said this previous interviews. Like I don't care. The belt, I do not care about a belt. I've won a belt. I've got a couple of belts sitting in my mantle in there. I do not care. The fact for me was like the fight against someone who's got a good record, who hasn't lost at that weight. He's only lost at lightweight. I think even as an amateur, his only loss was at lightweight against Quinlan, if I'm not mistaken. So the dude's not lost at featherweight. He's got a really good record. He's got a bunch of finishes and stuff like that. So it was more the prestige of fighting, the other guy that's up the top with me, and then, putting him away and kind of ticking another big name off the list. So yeah, I was obviously bummed about the fight falling through, but yeah, then it kind of brought us to this process that's been happening the last couple of weeks of trying to figure out what's next. And you know me, man, I'm pretty fucking open about things, and I just say it how it is. So basically what happened is uh the night of the Abdalla having his Muay Thai fight, obviously with the time difference in Perth and that, the fight happens, he gets knocked out at like 1:30 a.m. I woke up the next morning, I had a text message at 1:30 a.m. From Jacob being like, about that, being like, oh, we're gonna have to like figure something out. And then initially, so yeah, the thing was, okay, we're going to get you someone else to fight. And, obviously that was just going to be the sort of thing. Next thing, the discussion shifted to they are going to they have someone else for Jarrett. And then I'm fighting Sem, or they're offering me Sem for the title, and then Jarrett's got someone else. And then so that was kind of put there, and then I said this straight away. I was like, "That's cool. I'm happy to do that, but it's got to be guaranteed that Jarrett has another fight, and it's got to be locked in. Otherwise, I'm not fighting." And I said this to Jacob, and I said this to that was the discussion that I had with Joe and with Jarrett together, and I was like, "I'm not fighting. I couldn't care. I can sit out for a couple of weeks and wait. I could fight on another show in a couple of weeks. I don't care." Jarrett's had a bit of a layoff. He needs some, get back in there, compete. He needs some momentum, and this is a big fight that's been building up for a long time. So I'm not gonna shaft him to, to fight when, like that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter to me. I just fought a couple weeks ago, so it's not like I'm, desperate need to fight like ASAP. Like I could wait a couple weeks. And then it turns out that the fight that the person that they'd said, and the fight that they said they had for Jarrett wasn't the case. And I don't know, there was some funny business going on. Apparently, I don't know if the guy's managers didn't tell him, or well, I don't know. I don't know what happened there. So then we decided, all right, well, we'll just keep things how they are. Jarrett and Sam can fight, and then they can just find someone else for me, and whether that, whatever, that's their job to figure that out. Like I said from the start of this conversation, they were partly to blame, and they bottled this just as much as Abdalla's team did. So I was like, they can just find someone, whether that means, you bite the bullet and fly someone in. I don't care. That's for you to figure out. But yeah, so then they were like, all right, cool. They started flicking a few names. They're like, oh, we got a few people that we're trying to, talk to. But I understand, it's a couple weeks notice. It's not a case of, oh, someone wouldn't accept the fight. That's like, oh, they're not game or they're not keen or anything like that. I think it's pretty obvious that everyone else in this weight division thinks that I'm a pretty easy matchup for them. So I think there's no doubt of like someone not wanting to fight me, like they're worried about fighting me. I think that the issue is obviously we're fighters, and at the end of the day, they've got to, do the right things. I think making weight would be the one thing. You got to be confident you're going to be able to make the weight, potentially fight 5 rounds on short notice. Like, are you happy to do that? And then I guess, yeah, they probably want to get some sort of financial compensation for taking a fight on short notice. So a couple of names were flicked to me, and then we're like, and I just said, "Yep, sweet." And every time that Joe said something, I was like, "Yep, cool, yep, that's sweet, whatever." And then there was a couple of people who was like, "Oh, is this going to be realistic weight wise, or what the case is?" And then it sort of got to the tail end of last week, leading into the weekend, and then George Mangos's name was floated to me as well, and I was like, but obviously he was tied into the Eternal Grand Prix type stuff, and you and I spoke about that off air, like with that, as far as I knew, that was that was pretty locked in and pretty exclusive and all that shit. So that name was offered, and then I said same thing. I was like, yep, fair enough, but like is that gonna does that mean that Jarrett and Sem are going ahead? Because if Sem's, if it was still going to be like a case of they've made Sem believe he's fighting for a title, now he's going to be adamant he's not fighting and he wants to move forward with a fight that he was promised for a title, or so I don't know, that sort of situation, and that means Jarrett's going to be left without a fight. And I'd rather Jarrett and George Mangos fight for #1 contender, and then you fucking fight. They can fight them in September for the belt. I don't care. Then you just get me someone else. Like, I just need to fight. I don't need to fight for a belt, and I don't need to fight. You can just get me someone else, or I can just go fight on another show. I don't care. But that way, Jared still gets a fight. You've obviously promised Mangos something and to bring him over. You've promised him something. You've caused this whole crazy whirlwind of things where you promise things to people. And now they've announced the fight with Mangos. But now it still seems like it's all up in the air. Like, there wasn't ever like, that was mentioned to me by my coaches and that's a name, that another person that they're sort of looking at. And then I said, oh, okay, yep, sweet. Well, if it can happen, it can happen. But now it still seems like it's up in the air, and I don't know. I think we're all still a bit perplexed and confused, because I'm being told that Sem's adamant he's not fighting Jarrett because he's paid his dues for Hex. He stepped in on short notice last time, and they told him that he's fighting me for the belt. They had someone else for Jarrett, and now he's like, I've talking about he signed a contract, and he wants the contract that he signed, and it's voided his contract for the fight with Jarrett, and there's all this craziness. But I mean, I don't know. Look, I'll just say this. I don't know who I'm fighting June 14th. I'm pretty confident I'm fighting June 14th. At this rate, I could be fighting Jarrett. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, I'm sure it's going to get figured out. But all I'm saying is, like, the end of the day, this is turned into a complete shit show based on bad decision making from a bunch of people. But that's not from our end. My team and Jarrett and I, like, we've stuck, stayed the course, and we've been preparing and training and grinding towards June 14th, and we're still doing that now. Like, we did our meat grinders and stuff this morning. Like, we're still locked in doing that. And if this, I don't know how this is going to pan out. I don't actually know what's going to happen, but we'll see what happens. And if it goes, like, at the end of the day, if Sem needs that extra bit of motivation to get in there and keep his fight with Jarrett, or if they want to do Sem and Jarrett for the belt, they can do that. I know Jarrett's pretty adamant. He doesn't want that. He wants to earn it. He wants to feel like he earned it. He wants to go out there and beat the dude and then do that. I respect that. I'd feel the same way, to be honest. But like I said, I couldn't care about the belt. Like if they wanted to do that, they could do that. If they want to do Sam Jarrett for the belt, they can do Sam Jarrett for the belt. I'll fight. Yeah, I
Well,
don't care.
well, how do you feel about a guy that's 3-0, George Mangos, coming over to fight you? I mean, like you said, you don't care about belts. It's always about guys with records, bigger records than you, bigger rankings than you. And you're kind of being the guy that gets to give George Mangos his big opportunity.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like I'll be honest. Like I've got nothing against George. He's come down and sparred at Freestyle a couple of times, and obviously we've fought on the same cards before, with it obviously on Eternal and stuff like that. And you know, the he's a nice dude. He's always been nice to me. I don't, yeah, no, we're pretty courteous, I think, and I don't have anything against the dude and his team. I like his coach. He's always been cool to me as well. And obviously Stanoff, he used to come down and do a bunch of camps with us and stuff as well and pop in. So there's always, yeah, there's like a no malice or anything there, but I do think it's that's weird too, because the guy was, he was locked into the Grand Prix, and then it's like now you've bailed on that. How, like, are you actually certain that you're fighting for the hex belt, or like, because now you've kind of put yourself in an awkward position in a sense where, if, say for example, he gets shafted and he's not fighting me on June 14th, well, now you fucked yourself because you bailed on Eternal, and I can't imagine that they're happy that you dipped out of their Grand Prix. And I don't understand, yeah, the like what's going on. I just know that apparently when the day that I decided to sign and put pen to paper for the fight against Michael Barber in New Zealand, I've unintentionally broken Australian MMA and caused this weird ripple effect. Um, and it just seems like now more than ever, Hex and Eternal are like, all right, you did that. Watch us do this. And now they've gone on the weekend. Obviously, they've dropped that big announcement with Harry saying, like, I've signed a multi-fight deal. And then next thing, Hex is announcing that I'm fighting George Mangos, breaking news, when it wasn't like a actual concrete discussion yet that was like, oh, this is the fight that we're offering you. So I don't
It,
know.
is it? So it's not, you have not signed a contract to fight George Mangos. Fuck.
And I want to maintain that transparency, bro. I ain't fucking letting anyone, yeah, rinse me or my team for shit that's out of our control and not our problem and not our cause.
Yeah. It's 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 tricky. I both love it and it's getting messy. It's the most, don't get me wrong, it is the most poppin', I feel like, Australian MMA. And if it's messy and murky, I am more than likely a big person to blame in that. But like, I don't know, man. I don't know what this is. Do you regret? Let me ask you this. Do you then, is there any bit of you that regrets leaving Eternal?
Nah, I don't regret leaving Eternal, man. At the end of the day, bro, I've got to do what's best for me, and you know, and that, and and mine, and like, I signed a fight for like to fight like a 2 fight thing, so to fight Barber and then a quick turnaround to fight for the belt if I'm successful in that fight, which I was. Um, so yeah, I was like, cool, and that was the thing. Like the offer that they made me was good, and I was like, yeah, cool, I'm happy with that. And it was, made that discuss, like, had that discussion with the people around me and with my coaches and that. And it was like, all right, let's do that. So nah, I'm not going to regret decisions that I've made, because I've done those decisions with the best intention for me and my family and the people around me and stuff like that. So, but part of me, like, it's in hindsight 2020. Part of me consider and say, oh, well, now in hindsight, I might as well have just headlined that Sydney card and fought, Gabriel, and defended my belt, knowing that Abdalla and I wasn't gonna come to fruition, and seeing the mess that this has caused, and seeing the frustration that it's caused for my teammate, and like, and just and seeing like the shit show it's turned into, like that part. Yeah, so I don't regret my decision, but part of me just goes, well, fuck, man, if I didn't jump ship and do this, if I just sort of was like, all right, fuck it, I'll defend my belt against this dude, even though, yeah, whatever, I'll fight this dude, defend my belt. Um, then yeah, obviously, I wouldn't have missed out on this fight with Abdalla, and there wouldn't have been all this craziness that's happening right now. But at the same time, man, that'd be silly for me to do that, because look at some of the positive stuff that's come out of the fact of me going, "Hi, I'm done. I'm out. I'm gonna go fight on Hex." It led to my teammate getting to headline a card, and in Sydney, and like a historic fight with one of the other top female fighters in the region. So and there's been a few other bits and pieces that have come out of it. So like I can't regret my decision. But I mean, yeah, you can sit here and like Monday morning quarterback it and go, fuck, if I just stayed, then none of this craziness would have happened. But you can't plan for that. You can't know that that's going to happen. So it is what it is.
Do you think? Sorry, I just randomly got a notification of Eternal posting a photo, and I was like, "Well, I've got to check that. You never know what it could have been. It could have been some like groundbreaking announcement." It's like Justin signs back on with Eternal, and then we would have had to do this whole thing live. No, it's just the Perth card. The Perth card looks to be kind of going smoothly. Um,
You know,
do you, do you think do you think the drama between Eternal and Hex, because it really is turning into like a Pepsi versus Coke type thing. It really is a back and forth. Like, you got me here, well, I want to get you here. Like, you did this, so I'm going to try and get you here. And I think in some aspects it's really, really, really good, because it's I'm assuming getting fighters paid more and all this sort of stuff. Like, I'm assuming it's helping that, right? But from your perspective, do you think all this drama recently, and even the beef in between fighters and stuff, do you think it's good for the sport?
well, anytime stuff like this happens where there's like competition between promotions, and there's that obviously the back and forth between fighters, and that's going to be good for the sport, and it's going to put a lot more it puts a lot more eyes on the sport. It gets people more invested in stuff. And I guess, yeah, it gives fighters that are coming up now and, early days in their pro career, it gives them options as well to look at it and go, oh, well, if say Eternal offers me a fight with so and so, and this is what they're going to pay me, I can then see what Hex has like got for me, and then compare that and go, okay, well, this is the best fight because they're offering me a similar skilled opponent, but for a little bit more money, or vice versa. So there's always that. It gives fighters the options to kind of get some benefits out of it, and it benefits the promotions as well, because I like look at what's happened now with both promotions. Like, obviously it's allowed both promotions to have some sort of big moments so far this year, and have like some crazy sort of opportunities to drop big news, cash in on a bunch of hype, and I'm sure that translates to ticket sales and translates to all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it does seem a bit like it is probably not good for the sport, not good in a small way, that it seems to be turning ugly, in like this ugly in a sense. I mean, yeah, like I kind of we spoke about this too, man. I'd hate to think we live in a world where someone making a decision that they seems what's best for them leads to some fucking crazy shit where someone gym gets burnt down, bro. Like, I I like, if that's happening as a result of competition in a sport, bro, that's fucking crazy. Like, that's stupid. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, all in all, I think it's going to be good, because there's been like all of last year and stuff like this. We spoke. You and I have had this chat a couple times. There's like this unspoken rivalry between Hex and Eternal, but they'd all like publicly they'd be like, "Oh, no, we don't care." Like, that I don't watch their shows, and then they'd be like, "No, we
Yeah.
don't watch their shows," and like, oh, then they're like, "No, there's nothing there. We're not trying to compete with each other, but like you are." But now I think it's cool that they've just doubled down and gone, "All right, fuck it. Like, yeah, we are competing, and oh, you did that, cool. We're doing this." And now it's like, you know, they're kind of, yeah. I said that I can appreciate, and that I think is good, that the facade of not competing with each other, or the facade of they don't care what each other does, is gone, and it means like, no, we do care, and we're going to try and one up each other. So I think that, yeah, that is important. That is cool, because that leads to better opportunities for fighters, and just creates more of hype, more platform. Like, I mean, there's people overseas talking about what's going on in Australian MMA right now. So it's all good. It's all good for everyone, and it's good for, yeah, it's good just for promotion, and it's good just for fighters.
What's that thing too of like, everyone needs that great rival? Like, your career got more eyes on it, like just on the simple fact of like the Abdalla rivalry, just that little tiny thing, someone who didn't care before all of a sudden does, and they watch your backlog and then they follow your career and then they forgot why they even got involved in your career. And it might have been because of some weird shit talking, and now all of a sudden they're all involved in you. And I feel like it's that same thing of like every great champion, like needs a rivalry, like Anderson Silva, Charles Sonnen, John Jones, Daniel Cormier, like all that sort of stuff. I don't see how Hex v Eternal doesn't do good. I hope it stays, I hope this is the line and then we sort of back off from here. You know what I mean? And then it kind of goes back and forth. And I also want people to like, I want your thoughts on this as well. I don't like exclusive contracts, right? I don't, right? I want everyone to fight everyone because I'm a fan like that. But at the same time, if you sign a contract, and I'm not saying George did or anyone like that. I'm not alluding to that. But if you sign a contract, I do want you to honor it. Like I don't like this like leave. Now the Grand Prix one's different because I'm going to assume here there was like a little loophole where like, if a name changes on a contract type thing, that contract doesn't exist anymore. But I don't want to see people just going, nah, this is a better option. I'm just going to leave, stuff the contract, because then kind of what are we?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Now you're making a mockery. I mean, for the most part, regional MMA contracts aren't worth the paper they're
No.
written on. But at the same time, like, yeah, if you're going to if you're going to commit to something like that, you got to like stick to it, right? And yeah, you're right about that. Like, exclusive contracts on regional MMA is just it's a weird thing, and it can be good, it can be beneficial, but at the same time, it can just cause like a bottleneck for the certain fighters and stuff like that. Like look at Harry for example, right? The dude struggled to get a fight. Now he's got a guaranteed fight for August. Um, versus the winner of Wes Capper and Martinez, if they both make weight and can make it to the fight, and that pins out, and then yeah. So he's got a guaranteed fight for them. But then is that he goes out there and smokes either one of them? Like Wes Capper's, look at his credentials and accolades on the feet and stuff like that. If Harry goes out there and knocks him out, or is able to survive against Martinez and not get taken down and just crushed and submitted or whatever, and he beats either one of those guys, do you see any other lightweight wanting to then fight him after that? It's probably going to be the same thing. He's just going to be, they're going to have to fly him someone in. And if they're not going to do that, or if they can't do that, then it's kind of like you're in a similar position anyway. So it's kind of weird. But yeah, I think for the most part, though, exclusive contracts, it's like it's a weird situation. Like it's a weird situation. Like you said though, but if you sign to something, you commit to something, and you're like, you got to stick to it. I did. I understand now the whole exclusive thing for Eternal, if you win a belt and stuff's changed, and it's like that, I guess fighter to fighter, it's going to depend on how they sort of negotiate it. But for me, they told me leading into it, I asked that question leading into it to the fight with Diego. I was like, what happens with that? And they said, from the day you win the belt, you're exclusive for a year. And I was like, yeah, sweet. But I also, in my mind, I was like, that's cool. I've fought on Eternal a lot. Eternal's been good to me. I'll be exclusive for a year, but I'm the champ, so there's not going to be like a shortage of people that want to fight me. And then I already kind of knew that I had one fight guaranteed, like or sort of already in the cards because for February, because I was like, oh, I'm fighting Costa, we're going to rematch, it's cool, whatever. And then I just imagined, I was like, yeah, I'm sure there's going to be, the next person that they're going to find, or there's going to be like you said, there's no shortage of people that want to fight me. And apparently I'm the easiest fight in the division. So cool. So I guess I was like, yeah, had that factoring into my decision. So I was like, yeah, I'll be sweet. But yeah, I guess, yeah, I will say that like exclusive contracts, it's a weird sort of setup, but if you're going to do it, make sure it's set up the best way for you, and then make sure that you stick to it. Yeah, you should stick to it. If any commitment you should stick to, um, like the Mangos thing's weird too, because he was meant to fight. He was meant to fight Dan Jones. He got an unfortunate injury. Now you're meant to fight Dimps, and then that couldn't happen logistically on the Sydney card, so they got moved to the Gold Coast card. And it's like, fuck, man, he was going to step in short notice to fight you, so you still get a fight. You were like, sweet, we're going to fight in the Gold Coast instead. But now you're like, no, I'm going to go fight at Hex. But like, is that, yeah, it's, I just think, yeah, if it's like me, obviously, people are going to do what they're going to do, and individuals are going to do their own thing. But like, yeah, I'm on the principle of like, yeah, you sign something, you commit to something, like, do that.
Well,
So yeah, it's,
yeah, speaking of signing and committing to things, how what's your percentage chance that you versus George Mangos actually happens?
I'd say like 60-40.
What? Why 40? Why 40 not?
Nah, I meant like 40% it happens and 60% it doesn't.
What? Why? Why 60 it
I
doesn't?
just I just don't know what's going on. Like I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I'm I just all I want all I want is to know that I'm gonna fight, Jarrett's gonna fight, and we're both fighting, and that's it. And if that's yeah, like I said, I'm gonna do what I have to do to make sure that that happens. So if I've got to bow out so Jarrett can be guaranteed a fight, I'm gonna do that. And people don't have to like that. People don't have to cop that. That's I do not care.
When was the last time you spoke to Jacob?
Uh, uh, it's probably last week sometimes. Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks
Would,
or not like no last couple of days. Yeah, so like last week sometime I imagine was and yeah. So I know that like I know that they'd want to keep me on the card because yeah, I mean I know my value, man. I know where I'm at, and I know that they're going to want to capitalize on keeping me on the card because they've wanted me to come fight for them for so long. They've been pressing me to come fight for them for so long. I then did what I had to do. I, fought my fight with Barbara and then signed my contract to fight Abdalla. So I'd imagine that they'd be keen to keep me on the card because I imagine the last thing that they would want would be this whole situation has just caused the shit show. It falls through, and in a couple of weeks' time, I just go fight on beatdown or some shit, and then like I fight on beatdown or I go fight just a random fight on Eternal against another featherweight or some shit. Or yeah, I don't know, man. Like I go to Bali and fight on Kangoo Fight Night. I don't know. Like I get that'd be the last thing that any of the like that they would want because like yeah, imagine that it plays out that way. This whole shit show is just falls and it causes everything to fall through. I go fight on beatdown, go out there, do my thing, put on a killer performance, potentially get a finish. Next thing you know, one of these top promotions comes a call and comes a knock in. I'm off to the races, and now you're sitting there with like, for lack of a better term, with your dick in your hand, going, well, we can't capitalize on that because the dude fought on another promotion. Like, you know what I mean? It's yeah,
so
it's a weird situation to be in.
So this conversation ends. Are you calling Jacob or are you waiting for Jacob and Hex to call you?
No, they can talk to Joe, bro. I don't talk to promoters. That's how funny business starts happening. Only time that I had and that's the thing, like Joe deals with all of that, and that's how it should be. It was different. It was a little bit different at Eternal. Like I'd obviously go have a bit more of a sort of dialogue there with Cam because Cam and I had a good relationship, and we had a friendship outside of just the promoter fighter relationship. So Cam and I would constantly just be talking about events in general, fights that they were doing and stuff like that. And I'd always just be like, yeah, that's, give my sort of perspective on things and just, yeah, it'd be cool. And then in terms of fights for me and stuff like that, obviously if I had a question about something specifically or whatever, Joe didn't mind that I would like talk to Cam and stuff because obviously we had a previous sort of existing relationship. But in terms of any other promoters and stuff like that, man, like, yeah, so general sort of chit chat, yeah, but anything fight related and stuff like that, man, that goes through Joel and my management and stuff like that. Doesn't, yeah, I'm not gonna call anyone and do anything. The only thing that I text Jacob that I wanted to make absolutely clear was, and that was initially when the fight with the Della fell through, is I'm not shafting my teammate out of a fight, so just so I can fight, like that's never gonna happen. I was like, if if this if this is presented to be some way and then it turns out that it wasn't and Jarrett wasn't going to get to a fight, I guarantee you I wouldn't have got on a plane to fly to Melbourne. You wouldn't see me there.
All right, brother. Before I let you go, is there anything else you want to get off your chest?
Man, just want to say like thank you to my sponsors and everyone that is rocking with me and everyone that's tuned in for these last couple of weeks and is still kind of like, fuck yeah, like let's hope this all pans out and just shout out the sick fight that Amina put out on the weekend, bro. She's a fucking animal. She's already, Monday morning back in the gym doing her thing. So yeah, I'm just blown away by that, bro. Blown away by my team, blown away by everything that's happening. It's busy times at freestyle. See, Seb's got a fight coming up. Kasib just fought. He's got another fight potentially in the works, and Colby's got something happening. There's I think everyone's rocking. Everyone's starting to get fights. Everyone's starting to get busy. So exciting times. We've got Wollongong Wars next week. So tune in on that, everyone. If you're fucking bored on Friday night next week and you don't have money to fly to Wollongong or train to Wollongong, bus to Wollongong, whatever you want to do, jump on there and make sure you watch it. It's going to be bangers. There's going to be bangers on that card.
Sick. All right, brother. Well, it's always a pleasure. I'm sure you'll be back on in a couple of days when more shit happens. But if there's one thing that I know out of all of this is that Eternal and Hex, whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing, they get shit done. So something will come out of this and we will see how it plays out. But hopefully we'll see Justin Van Heerden June 14th in Melbourne.
Hopefully. But yeah, thanks for having me again.
Peace out, legend.